Hello, it's me again, Jasmine Holmes, owner of 910 West, a digital marketing company here in Gilbert, Arizona. I have another quick business tip for you. This month I'm going to talk about how your customers find you, and that's why I'm wearing my Waldo glasses, because sometimes one of the reasons that our business is struggling is because we are too hard for customers to find us. And I don't mean just digitally, so online when somebody's looking for something, but I also mean physically in the real world. Our businesses can be hard to find, particularly if your business depends on people coming to your location. So today I'm going to share with you all the places online that your business needs to be listed so that people can easily find you there, but will also help direct them to your physical location so they can find you in the real world. And as we go through this, I'm going to prioritize this a little bit to make it more accessible, because some of this is recognizing you may have limited time or resources. I'm going to map out for you the most important sites and then kind of create a hierarchy that you can work your way through. So that way, as you work on this, you can get the biggest bang for your buck. So let's start with the very most important part. You notice right there, we've got you, or more correctly, your business right there in the center. And the reason we've got you in the center of all this is because, one, of course, we want all these new prospective and existing customers coming to you from all these other sites. But really, success online, visibility, as well as people being able to find you in the real world, starts with you. And it starts with having a single source of correct information. So your source of data truth, if you will, about your business, and making sure that it's consistent on all these sites. And how you do that is keeping a document that maps out how you want your business to be listed online. So this is some of the basic information you expect, like name, address, phone number, website, and you're kind of thinking, why do I need to have that written down? Seems like that's something I would know right off the top of my head. That's true, but there's other things that aren't as easy to remember, like a short description for your business, key categories and services, and or keywords for your business. Those all should be included in this document as well. And then you want to make sure that as you're getting your business listed on all these various sites, that same information gets plugged into each, because that's what's going to keep you consistent and make sure that you're being found by the customers, the right customers for your business. So once you've got that single source of data, that document that you keep, that anybody who is working on these sites and or working on your online information should have access to, you want to start with the biggest, probably most important one in the ecosystem, which is the Google My Business, or Google. They are absolutely the 1,000-pound gorilla of the moment. However, that's not to say that'll be the case forever, so you shouldn't focus entirely on Google and forget about the rest. But that's absolutely, if you do one thing from this video today, that's the one thing you should do, which is focus on your Google business listing, potentially because it feeds into other sources as well, like Waze. I do have some instructions for how to get listed on Waze down below. That's a new navigation app that we're seeing pop up on the phone, and that is fed by Google. I've got a more detailed video coming next month where I'll walk you through how to do your Google My Business profile, and we've also got a challenge going where you'll win some great prizes if you participate over 4 weeks on really improving your profile. So sign up in my email box below if you'd like to be alerted, or come back next month for my video and we'll have a little bit more on Google, a little more specifics, but just know that this is a really important piece. But there's some other sites that you need to be listed as well, not just Google, and that's what I want to talk about today. So let's next move into probably the next most known suspect when I talk about online citations or online directories, and that's Yelp. Now, love them, hate them, depending on where you're at, you may or may not have a lot of customers using Yelp to find businesses. However, they are really important because they do feed into other search places, particularly voice search. A lot of those sites are pulling from Yelp data. So it's important to be listed there so that people can find you other places, not so much because you're going to be found on Yelp. Specifically, Alexa is one of the voice search services that pulls from Yelp. So if you'd like to be found when somebody's looking for a local business on Alexa, make sure your business information is up to date and accurate on Yelp. Facebook is also considered a primary data source. It's a great place. A lot of people are finding local businesses on there. There's a lot of conversations happening in groups and recommendations in there. So one, just for somebody to talk about your business, but it's also considered a data source in its own right. So as a benchmark as looking at information. So that's why you want to make sure it's not only accurate, but you're giving your customers, by delivering superior service, the ammunition to talk about you, but also make sure the information on your page is accurate to feed into some of these other sites. I'm going to skip niche directories for a minute, and I'm going to go to these next three data sources, and they're kind of secondary to the first three, but still equally as important, and they kind of serve the same function. So you've got Bing here. So Bing is, a search engine just like Google, and so an important piece, so a much smaller market share. However, one of the reasons Bing is still really relevant, despite the fact not having a big use in the search market, is the fact that they feed into Cortana. So anybody who would like to be found in voice search over Cortana on a Windows device, you want to make sure your information's accurate on Bing. Same thing with Apple Maps as a map platform. Yes, Google Maps is pretty well used, but I would venture to say that probably about 50% of the population is using Apple Maps to find your business as well. A lot of people have iPhones. We know it's a large portion of the market, and a lot of people don't take the time to download and install another map or navigation app, so they're using the default Apple Maps. They used to pull from other sources like Yelp, but Apple is no longer doing that, so you do need to make sure that your business is listed on there as well. So really important for navigation, Apple Maps. And then you've got Foursquare. Now Foursquare, you may be thinking of it as the check-in app, if you remember from probably about 7, 8 years ago when they first came out. And yes, it is that, but they've actually really shifted what they're doing, and how they are so important now is not so much for their user base, but because they push their location data to a lot of other sites. So they actually serve as a little bit of an aggregator that I'll talk about here in a second as well, where they feed data to other sites. So again, important to be listed on Foursquare, not so much because as a primary where customers are going to find you, but because they push to other sites where potential customers will find you. Next, let's jump to navigation services, because this kind of ties into what we were talking about with maps. And Google, we do have a lot of users on these, or if they're using navigation in their car, maybe not driven by your phone, you want to make sure, and there's really three main sites that play in here, TomTom here, and OpenStreetMap. I've got links below for with instructions on how to make sure you're listed there as well. Finally, let's talk about niche directories and data aggregators. So niche directories are these sites that are either specific to your local area or specific to your industry. So for example, if you're a Gilbert Chamber member, you should be listed on your Gilbert Chamber directory, and that's what we consider a local directory, and you want to make sure that that information again matches what's on all these other sites. Local directories can be fabulous for getting found by local customers. Nextdoor is a very much up and coming version of this, and I've got a new video coming that will talk a little bit about that in a couple months. But just if Nextdoor isn't already on your radar, check it out and get familiar, because I see this becoming more and more important. But also industry directories. So legal, home services, medical have some of the most well-known niche industry directories, but there's a lot of others out there. So look and see if there's something in your industry, a niche directory, where you can get listed as well. And then lastly, so after you've done all these other items we've talked about, look at your data aggregators. And why I list them last is they are the most old school of these. This is the place where we used to focus most of our efforts on. But one, they are on the decline in terms of relevance in the industry, so they do still carry some weight, but not as much as they used to. Also, they become much more difficult to deal with and have pretty much for the most part, no free listing options. So you almost always have to pay to be listed on here. So data aggregators, once you get all the rest of this in hand, I would recommend reaching out to a professional and working with a professional on getting your data aggregator game in play. There's 3 of them total. They all have crazy mispronounceable names you've never heard of anyway. The good news is it's not very difficult to get listed on a data aggregator. It just is something that you are not very expensive, but it is something you need to have some knowledge of. So that's why I would suggest contracting with a pro. It may cost you $100 to $150 a year to hit these 3 sites. However, if all your information is pretty clean and consistent out there on everything else besides those 3 data aggregators, which I do have links to below, you may not need to do anything at all, because generally what this is, if you've got information that's incorrect, it's generally getting, and you've corrected all these other places, it's generally getting pulled from an aggregator. However, if that's not the case, it may not be worth it at all. And so that is, in a nutshell, what you need to work on. And just to quickly recap, start with Google, Get yourself on Waze, then get yourself squared away on Yelp, Facebook, then move over to Apple Maps, Bing, Foursquare. Once you have those in hand, work on your navigation services. And lastly, circle around to your niche directories. Once you have all that done, work on aggregators, which I do suggest working with a professional on that. And that is how you increase your online visibility. Next month, I look forward to talking to you about Google My Business.